Hello and welcome, wrestling fans. Coming quick and fast, the 2002 WWE calendar is still on the way, and we have a very special pay-per-view for you today. It took place on the 26th of October 2002, and it is WWE Rebellion, which is in the UK. It took place at the Manchester Arena in England, of course, and it was attended by 13,416 ticket buyers. And the main event is Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman versus Edge in a handicap match. You can also find this arena in SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. I seem to remember that vividly. It is JR saying, "We've got a tour coming up to Rebellion, and would you like a spot on the card?" And then you can choose whether you want to go or not. It's pretty cool. And it also exclusively broadcast in the UK. So, this wasn't your sort of worldwide pay-per-view. It was an exclusive to the UK. And a great promo package to open us up as well, which is, very unusual for UK shows. But, we're going to go into the main part of the video. And we hope you join us there. In the meantime, click the subscribe button, like the video. Join us on social media. And we'll see you in just a second. This is awesome! So let's get into the main part of the show. And we start off with Stephanie McMahon, the general manager of SmackDown, coming down to the ring to make a very special announcement. It is, of course, SmackDown's first own brand pay-per-view, so she wants to make it something very special, and as part of her negotiations with Eric Bischoff on Raw, she has managed to secure, for one night only, the services of none other than five-time WCW champion Booker T. And he is going to go against Matt Hardy, usually a tag team wrestler. Obviously, they've been split up. This is the era of Matt Hardy version 1. I absolutely love Matt Hardy version 1. Whenever I used to make a character on games, I always used to have that overview where it says Matt facts, Matt really likes English muffins, Matt hates English mustard, that kind of thing. Really, really cool character, Matt Hardy evolution, and it comes full tilt. Anyway, these two were given actually quite a lot of time to work together. It was a really good match to get the crowd going. The crowd was loving it, very much behind Booker T and very much against Matt Hardy. But it would be a hard-hitting affair with lots of to-ing and fro-ing. Not many high-flying moves. Of course, Matt Hardy is not quite cruiserweight, but he's never been a full high flyer like his brother Jeff anyway. And Booker T has always been a heavyweight, so quite a contrast of styles here. Matt Hardy doing all of his usual hijinks that he would do, trying to distract the referee, trying to get in cheap shots on Booker T. Booker T always had an answer for this. It seems quite strange that you'd bring in a Raw superstar to SmackDown and have him go over on Matt Hardy, but obviously I do understand that if the crowd's behind a certain wrestler, then it probably is the better option. So the finish comes with Matt Hardy hitting a twist of fate on Booker T. Booker T barely kicking out at 2. And Matt Hardy then looking to the referee, what's happening? Why have you not counted to the 3? Count faster, that kind of thing. And goes for it again. Booker T reverses, gives a stiff kick to the gut, and hits the scissor kick on Matt Hardy for the win. So yeah, Booker T is your winner in this first match. Can give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5. Really good match. Great opener. And the crowd absolutely loving it. Also, after the match, of course, Booker T gets on the microphone and says, "There's only one reason why I came here, and you want to tell you what's up." No, that's Boom Boom Shake the Room by Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. But he does say, "There's only one reason I came here, and I'm going to give you what you want." A spinneroonie, of course, with an extra little spin at the end because I think he messed it up. But hey, it's all cool, you know. So we next get Paul Heyman stomping down the corridors of the Manchester Arena looking for Stephanie McMahon. Eventually does find the door marked SmackDown General Manager and bursts in unceremoniously. He starts complaining about why Stephanie McMahon would book him in a handicap match with Brock Lesnar as his partner and against Edge, because basically if Paul Heyman gets pinned, Edge wins the championship. And let's face it, Edge is still no match for Brock Lesnar, really, at this point in time. But he's complaining, $2,500 suit and all that kind of stuff. He hasn't bought his trunks, and like Taz says later on, who wants to see Paul Heyman wearing a pair of trunks? The answer is nobody. So, yeah, he doesn't think it's fair, blah, 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 blah. Stephanie McMahon retorts. She says that it is actually fair. It wasn't fair that you broke Undertaker's hand. It's not fair that Heyman's the reason that Undertaker's not at Rebellion. And obviously his wife at the time, Sarah, was actually due to give birth, which is obviously the real reason that he wasn't there. But, yeah, Paul Heyman gets sent packing with his tail, or his ponytail, between his legs. We go on to the next match. It is a mixed gender tag team match. It is Billy Kidman and the delightful Tori versus John Cena, and a very early John Cena, slightly showing his heelish tendencies here. John Cena and the equally delightful Dawn Marie, who's had a sordid relationship with Al Wilson, who is Tori Wilson's father, of course. Another 2002 great, dare I say great? I don't know. It's not great. Storyline from SmackDown to equal the Katie Vick storyline. Anyway, we get into the match. Kidman and John Cena start. John Cena showing his quickness, like I say, his heelish tendencies here. Billy Kidman also showing his aptitude in the squared circle. Dawn Marie then blind tags John Cena, and of course Tori Wilson then has to come in because it's mixed tag rules. So they start having a fight. They're doing pretty well, arm drags and jump overs and basement drop kicks and stuff like that. They're doing all right for two valet managers. Of course, they're not given as much time as they were at No Mercy, but then No Mercy was 6 days previous, and obviously they've got on a plane since then and flown over to England. So yeah, they start rolling around. The Billy Kidman tries to come in, separate them. He ends up going for a roll as well. He celebrates with the crowd because 2002, and yeah, he was a lucky bugger. But you know, actually, I drifted off. Anyway, so they Billy Kidman celebrates with the crowd. Referee is dealing with that, and Dawn Marie goes over as if to go and slap him. But John Cena comes in, gives Tori Wilson a body slam, and Cena jumps out and said, "Look, I'm holding the tag rope." Certain referees would be really proud of that, and yeah, the match continues, but it would finish with Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson having another cat fight, as they would call it, and rolling out of the ring. At that point, just after John Cena was trying to hit a move on Tori, Tori would low blow John Cena with the referee distracted again. So lots of distraction in this match. And eventually Billy Kidman would come in and get the upper hand on John Cena, hit the shooting star press. Well, almost hit the shooting star press. I think John Cena was trying to move out of the way, didn't quite. Kidman ended up sort of headbutting John Cena. But John Cena was built even in 2002, so I can't imagine that going any other way apart from John Cena just going meh. Gets the win. After the match, Tori Wilson puts the lip lock on Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman looking rather pleased with himself. Darn you, Billy Kidman. It's a difficult one to judge, this one. Good to see John Cena in his early sort of thugonomic days. Certainly in my opinion, the best iteration of John Cena. Showing what he could do, actually. Didn't get much chance to wrestle, of course, with the mixed tag rules, but yeah, and also Billy Kidman on show showing his athleticism, and it furthers the storyline. You get the feeling this was shoehorned in. Furthers the storyline between Al Wilson, Tori Wilson, and Dawn Marie. I'm going to give this one 1.5 cheap shots out of 5. Like I say, really difficult one to judge because of how it went and how much time they were given. But I mean, it is what it is. The crowd was behind it. You got to see Tori Wilson. That's all you need, really, isn't it? So the next match was a straight-up cruiserweight contest. There's a lot of cruiserweight matches on this card, and it is your standard sort of house show match. The crowd were really behind it. Behind Funaki, he had that little bit of something that a lot of the guys at this level did not, and he had a lot of charisma. SmackDown #1 announcer. Funaki would go against Crash Holly, and he hadn't quite developed. Well, he'd gone through his hardcore phase, hadn't he? And obviously the hardcore titles, I don't think a thing at this point anyway. So obviously he's transitioning into singles competition. It's Funaki versus Crash. Okay match, like I say, the crowd were behind it, more so behind Funaki than Crash. Not your standard cruiserweight contest. There wasn't a lot of high flying. There was a lot of showing to the crowd. With Crash pulling out a bandana from his trunks and tying it around his head and taking the mickey out of Funaki, who's from Japan, and doing all these like Japanese, well, not even Japanese moves, they're just karate moves. It looked like Daniel LaRusso. So, yeah, I think, they knew there wasn't going to be much of a reaction for them. Because there was either side of two, matches that had storylines, with the next one being the Cruiserweight Championship, which is why I say, it was, it's the Rebellion's full of Cruiserweight matches, really. Like I say, it was an okay match. Wasn't too interesting, wasn't too high flying, lots of rolling about, reversals, cradles and stuff like that. And it would be that would get the victory for Funaki. Crash would go for the roll through, Funaki would counter, and Crash just could not kick out, and Funaki would get the win. Like I say, not not bad. I don't like to say matches are really bad, but I wasn't interested in this one, gotta say. Like I say, the crowd were well behind Funaki, but I'm going to give this one cheap shot out of 5. It's a shame because you got 2 really good performers here, but they obviously weren't given a lot of time to get things done. So there you go. We move on to the next match. So on to the next match, we see Nydia walking through the backstage. She picks up a scent of some kind and sniffs her own armpit, which is quite nice. And then sniffs the security guard. She almost gags and walks around the corner to her beloved Jamie Noble, the Cruiserweight champion, and says, people in England stink. They've got really bad BO. Jamie Noble goes on a tyrant saying, look, these people are unkempt, they're unwashed, the women have hairy armpits and all that kind of stuff. Standard, let's get the crowd against us kind of stuff. It's what we call cheap heat in the industry. And I've got to say, I do love Jamie Noble and Nydia. I just have a real soft spot for them. They are really good as almost like a heelish comedy duo. Obviously, Jamie Noble is quite a different cruiserweight when it comes to it. More of a power cruiserweight rather than one that jumps around. That is covered by Rey Mysterio, obviously. And at this point, the Cruiserweight is the Cruiserweight Championship, and the Cruiserweights are exclusive to SmackDown. So, yes, we get the match. So, it's Tajiri versus Rey Mysterio versus Jamie Noble with Nydia for the Cruiserweight Championship, and it is an elimination match. So obviously whoever survives wins. Obviously leaving Jamie Noble at a huge disadvantage, because if he gets pinned, he is out, and we are guaranteed a new Cruiserweight champion. That's not how it stacks up. Tajiri comes out first. Jamie Noble and Nydia make their entrance next. Obviously, Rey Mysterio is the big marquee signing here for SmackDown and the Cruiserweights. So he comes out last. He gets jumped on his entrance. Jamie Noble realising that he's got to start out fast. And then Tajiri jumping on Jamie Noble. They have a little bit of a fight. Jamie Noble dumps out Tajiri onto the floor, and Mysterio comes back in, manages to do the same with Jamie Noble, and then goes for a beautiful corkscrew plunger to the outside. Stuff that we don't really see at this point in WWE, which is what makes the Cruiserweights at this time so exciting. It wouldn't be long before Tajiri would be tiger bombed and pinned to be eliminated. It didn't take very long for that to happen, leaving the main match. We would say, let's chuck Tajiri in there. We need more bodies. Let's get him on a card. He's willing to go. Let's do a match. Ultimately, very good. Sad that he got eliminated quite so early, because he already had a championship match at No Mercy only a couple of days before, 6 days in fact, before this pay-per-view. So we move on now. It's Jamie Noble versus Rey Mysterio. Nydia gets involved a couple of times. Rey Mysterio does manage to get the 619 set up as well. It's a bit of back and forth. Gets the 619 set up. Nydia trips Rey Mysterio at this point. All of these interferences did come at good times. They were really well timed as well, much to the appreciation of me being a manager in professional wrestling at the moment. And yeah, that wouldn't be the end of it. Rey Mysterio would succumb to the Tiger Bomb, but would kick out. And that would lead Nydia to interfere once more, leading Jamie Noble to manage to get the roll up on Rey Mysterio. And much like the end of the Funaki Crash match, it would be that kind of roll up. They just sit over on them, and Nydia would hold Jamie Noble's hand to get the leverage pin. So your Cruiserweight champion is still Jamie Noble with a massive hand to Nydia. Nydia comes in with the title, celebrates, shows it to Rey Mysterio, gives him a slap, and then goes to pick Jamie Noble up, put the title around his waist. At that point, Rey Mysterio would do the dastardly thing of kicking them both in the back and hitting a 619, a double 619, which Cole inaccurately calculates as a 1,126,000 whatever. It didn't sound great. Anyway, I think he called it a 1,200,218, which kind of makes sense, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, Cruiserweight match, always good, always welcome on my list. I really enjoyed this one. The interference didn't take away from the match either, which made it okay for me. And yeah, it would be Jamie Noble gets the win. I'm going to give this one 3.5 cheap shots out of 5. Very good match. Again, crowd behind it, crowd behind Rey Mysterio. Really building him up at this point, but obviously keeping the title on Jamie Noble because they know he gets the right reaction from the crowd. So why not? We move on to the next. So we've got some tag team action for you next. And before that we have Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's trying to convince Chris Benoit that he is the leader of their team. Chris Benoit comes back and says who won the titles for them, who beat Kurt Angle on SmackDown. It was Chris Benoit. So yeah, they're still arguing about that. Kurt Angle says, look, you know, our relationship's like the UK and the US. And Chris Benoit says, I'm from Canada, bro. And says, that's all the Commonwealth. It's exactly the same thing. So, yeah. So they're a bit disjointed still. They're still having the competition between themselves. And would that lead to something else? We don't know. But we get tag team match. We get a tag team match next. It is the thrown together team of Val Venus and Chuck Palumbo versus the thrown together team of Farouk and Reverend Devon. Yeah, bit of a throwaway this. Not great. Not many tags. Starts off with a jump attack from Farouk and Devon. They get the upper hand. Palumbo does try and come back. Didn't see much of Val Venus in this match, to be honest with you. Palumbo would try and come back. Ultimately, the numbers game would tell, and the referee not doing his job very well and getting people out of the ring would lead to double teams. And yeah, it would be Reverend Devon who would get the victory, as Palumbo would go outside to try and make contact with Farouk. Farouk would hit him with a really hard right hand that would lead to the roll up from Reverend Devon with a handful of tights, and Devon and Farouk would come through this one. Again, like I say, bit of a throwaway, bit of a shame really that the tag division, having introduced the new titles, is not great on SmackDown. It would get a lot better. They would be introducing more teams, and we'd get a lot better as the years went on. But at this moment in time, it's not great. I'm going to give this one cheap shot out of 5. Again, hate to say that things are bad, so I'm not going to do that. They did what they could with the time they had and the chemistry they tried to build, and it just didn't happen for them. We move on. So we go on to the next segment now. It is Los Guerreros talking about their championship match later on in the night for the WWE Tag Team Championships. The championships won by Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle at No Mercy. The Guerreros then talk about how great it will be when they win and go back to Mexico and have some traditional food with their grandma and celebrate out of the smelly country of the UK. Again, cheap heat, but done in a way that only Los Guerreros can do. So we move on to the next match. It is Albert coming down to the ring with Stock Music number A. That didn't make any sense. Stock Music A versus Rikishi with his standard music in a Kiss My Ass match where it is exactly what it says on the ass. It is the loser kissing the winner's ass. And this match doesn't happen very often because it's just a normal match with a stipulation at the end where the loser has to kiss the winner's ass. Obviously, Rikishi is known for backing that ass up, or in the UK, arse. And this match, yeah, I mean, it was a standard big man match. You can get some really good big man matches. This was not one of them. They did what they could with the material they were given. It was a Kiss My Ass match. It was there to make people go, yay, he's going to kiss his ass. Although, only in wrestling would you get people cheering for that kind of stipulation. So, yeah, the match kicks off. They're both, going at each other. And Rikishi reverses an Irish whip, goes for not the usual bend over to do the back body drop. He faces his arse into the direction of Albert, who then hightails it out of the ring in what was a very funny part of the match. And it was the most memorable part because really I've just sat and watched this match and can't remember anything else apart from the finish. So we'll go straight for that. The crowd were behind this one, I've got to say, because it was a special match, and obviously Rikishi's very popular. But it was always going to be a bit of a throwaway. Bonsai drop for the win for Rikishi, dropping that ass onto the hairy ass of Albert. Anyway, so Bonsai drop in memory of his cousin, Yokozuna, and that would be that. I'm going to give this match one cheap shot out of 5. We've got 3 of those in this card, which is quite sad, really. But considering this pay-per-view went on about 6 days after a main pay-per-view, you're probably not going to get much else out of that. And that was the SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view as well. So, after the match, Albert tries to hightail it. Rikishi does a mic check on his arse and says that there's one more thing that you've got to do, and he's got to get to the ring and kiss Rikishi's ass. Then the referee gets on the mic, Jimmy Corderas, and says, You have the count till the count of 10 to get back into the ring, otherwise you get suspended indefinitely without pay. Obviously, the commentators did a really good job there of explaining why the referee had that kind of power. So Stephanie McMahon making sure that nothing would go awry with this one, and so it didn't. So yeah, Albert comes back into the ring, beats the count of 10, gives Rikishi a low blow, gets back on the microphone, says, "You're going to kiss my hairy ass." Rikishi gives him a low blow, backs the ass up, and a stink face to finish. Yeah, so there was more happening after the match than what happened during the match, because we're not finished. Because Rikishi says he's not going to leave Manchester without busting a move, and he wants the SmackDown announcers, but he didn't have the best SmackDown announcer, Funaki, out with him, because he's the number one announcer. Obviously, he had a match earlier on in the night. Maybe he couldn't make it. They invite Tony Chimmel into the ring as well, and they bust a move. It looks really shit, but I apologise for the swearing. It looks really bad, but we got it anyway. So we move on now to the next match, which is the WWE Tag Team Championship match between the current champions, having won the titles inaugurally. I think that's a word, at No Mercy on the 20th in the US. It is Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. They are still having issues as a tag team, and that would play out throughout this contest. They are going against the contenders, Los Guerreros, been in the title picture since the inauguration of the championships, obviously coming almost all the way through the tournament to get to the final. And there's been a bit of back and forth between these two teams anyway, in the background of shows going back to No Mercy, where Chavo is being beaten up by Kurt Angle. Obviously, they're teasing the dissension between Chris Benoit and the Guerreros, having the long storied history of being good friends, and really good match this one, as you can expect from these two teams. It does break down rather quickly, I've got to say. I think this is early on in the SmackDown tag title picture where things broke down quite easily. So basically, towards the end of the match, Chris Benoit would hit a headbutt on a prone Eddie Guerrero, because Guerrero was pinning Kurt Angle, and it was Chris Benoit who was legal in the match. And it would lead up to the victory for the tag team champs, as the referee would be knocked down, and both would hit either chair shots or title shots to each other and get near falls. And then it would be Eddie Guerrero who would succumb to the guillotine on the top rope from Chris Benoit, and that would lead him into the Angle Slam for the victory. And really good show from these two. Like I say, as you would expect from them, and there's no surprises here. I'm going to give this one 3.5 cheap shots out of 5. Obviously, with this being a UK pay-per-view that's exclusive on UK pay-per-view, they were never going to go any further than doing sort of a house show, just a more polished one. So that's what you got. It was a more polished house show tag team championship match, and it's very worthy of the rating that I've given it. After the match, it would be Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit who would be shoving each other and having more issues, because Kurt Angle did run into Chris Benoit to knock Chavo Guerrero off the ring apron, etc., etc. And the Guerreros will try and sneak in, steal the titles. Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle would work together again to get rid of the Guerreros and have their hands held high. Where will this feud / partnership go? Who knows? We move on now to the main event. It is Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman in a handicap match against Edge, where Edge can win by pinning Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman earlier on in the night did complain to Stephanie McMahon, saying he didn't bring his trunks. Not that anybody wanted to see Paul Heyman in trunks, but Stephanie McMahon made him just put up or shut up and made him go out there anyway. He would spend most of the time on the outside of the ring, on the floor, in fact, during this match. But we see Paul Heyman doing some really weak push-ups. As Brock Lesnar says, if you get pinned, I will snap you in half. Starting the lead up to starting the lead up to Survivor Series and what would occur there. So we go on to the match. Again, they do a really, really good job about putting this match together, because obviously you've got a non-wrestler in the match as part of the match, and they keep Paul Heyman out of this one quite a lot. They tease Edge almost winning several times. Brock Lesnar doing a really good job of making Edge look like a credible contender. Obviously, there's a huge difference in styles here, and obviously Brock Lesnar is a lot stronger than Edge. But yeah, Brock Lesnar bumps like a bitch in this one for Edge. So, a couple of times he did get near falls, and it would lead to Paul Heyman obviously getting involved, getting speared off the apron. The chair would eventually come into the ring for Brock Lesnar to use, as the referee again was distracted, and that would lead Brock Lesnar into the F5 for the victory, as if it would go any different, any other way. Again, very credible match. I'm going to give this one 3.5 cheap shots out of 5 as well, and very much deserved. Overall, fairly decent pay-per-view, very watchable. It was never going to live up to the hype of No Mercy, and it's being sandwiched in between No Mercy and Survivor Series, knowing that is going to be a history-making show. It was, like I say, a glorified house show that you would see standard in the UK. That being said, the crowd were hot. They absolutely ate this up, and I'm pretty sure that if I had the chance to actually go to this, which I probably could have done, but Manchester's a fair way for me, then it would have been awesome, and I would have been into it as much as the crowd are there. So, yeah, decent pay-per-view, sandwiched in between two better pay-per-views, and there has been better pay-per-views during the year, but for a UK pay-per-view, and bearing in mind this was one of the last ones for nearly 20 years, it shows how far wrestling has come. Anyway, you are the Cheap Shot Nation. I've been your host, Luke. This has been another retro review. This has been a Rebellion in 2002, 2002. We'll see you for Survivor Series coming up next. A real good one, that one is. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Hiya.